Okay. Well, thank you, Victor, for being with us. It is really, really nice to have you with us in this moment, in this webinar. As you know, we are celebrating Stafford's 100 years, and it's really timely to listen a little bit about the URUCIB project because not many people know about that, and I think that there has been lots of interest in getting to know you, getting to hear the story about what's happening in Uruguay from you directly, and obviously getting to know your book, which has been published, and you were saying that is now being translated to English, which is fantastic. So we have an English version, and no, we are all here looking forward to see you and to hear your story.
Okay.
Thank
Well, this is the first slide. I am introducing URUCIB, or URUCIB, which stands for URUguay CIBernético. I mean, it's Cybernetic Uruguay, which was a name that we had after we had a first meeting with President Sanguinetti. Stafford said we have to have a name for the project. So we made a storm of ideas, and this was the name that came up, and that's how we know this experience that is really very, very state of the art at that moment, no? Because we were in 1985 when I started this project. We had no internet, no mobile phones, no cloud computing, nothing that we are so used to now. And how do you implement a real-time information system for the president if you don't have those things? So that was the first challenge we had, because we said we want, as Stafford wanted, have the president, I mean, which is the number one executive in a company. How does he have real-time information of what's happening, in this case, in the country? So this is what was URUCIB about.
Sorry to interrupt you, Victor, but we are not seeing your presentation. Shall we try again? Shall we try again?
Because I say, sure, okay.
I can see it.
You can see it?
I can see it. Don't know about others.
I can
see
it too.
Okay.
It's just us.
It's just us that we cannot see it.
Victor's screen up here.
Do you see now? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So on the right, there is the cover of the book, translated, because the first book was in English, was published in 2019, and this one was published last year. So, but you can get it from major libraries and bookshops electronically, mainly. No? So I was saying we had an idea. So the idea was to have an information system for the presidency, and the information will come from ministries. Public companies in Uruguay are very, very important. We have one for telecommunications, for energy, for oil, for water, and they are state-owned, and their information is very important. Then you have also the banks, the Central Bank of Uruguay and other banks. And we also have information that the president asks specifically to us. He says, I'm not very much interested on this financial information. I have my Ministry of Economics that looks for that. I want to know how people feels, how people is living in my country, says. So I want information about how many liters of milk go into the main processing plant in Montevideo. I want to know how many tickets for football, for movies, for theaters are sold, I want to know how many meters of square meters are being constructed. So these were the things that really interested him. And the system was designed for the president, but it could also be used for other executives in other ministries or public companies. That was the idea. And here we are with Stafford on his first visit with another team leader from my group, and was Jorge Faral on the left. So, and we're very, very happy because we had just met the president, and he said, okay, you can go ahead with the project. That was a very, very important issue. So how did URUCIB came? The thing is that at 1985, we were emerging from a 12-year military dictatorship in Uruguay. And Sanguinetti was the first democratic elected president in 15 years. So a lot of things were being thought, and a lot of things were being created. A lot of innovation went in the government and in the society in general. So I remember I had read Stafford Beer's work, and I said, well, I would like to have him involved in this project. So the problem was, how do I find him? Because I did try to find him many years ago in 1979, and I couldn't. So I said, well, let's see how can I get to Stafford. And so I read a letter to Stafford, and this letter ended with sorry. With a paragraph that says, my country would like to offer you a second chance in Latin America to implement your ideas and establish a real-time control system in the presidency. And I sent this letter like you send a bottle with a message to the sea, because I wasn't sure if I could find Stafford. I sent it to Wales, to the stone cottage at Wales, and fortunately, less than 15 days after that, I got an answer from Stafford, and the first paragraphs were, "Dear Victor Ganon, I have been waiting for 12 years for just a letter as yours of the 21st of July. There is only one possible answer, yes," he said. So that's how we started this project. Me, with no very much hope that I could find Stafford, and he answering right away that he was very willing to work with us. So after that, what were we trying to solve with URUCIB? Now we know every organization has a data silo. So everybody has their own data. The reports came to the presidency many weeks or months late, and the president had to make decisions sometimes without knowing the reality. So we wanted that he received everyday information. We had something like 1,200 time series in our database that cover most of the financial, economic, and social indicators. And the idea, using cyber filter, which I will explain later, was to detect the instabilities in the system, those data series, what has changed, and let it note to the top executive. So we had four really issues here. First, there were the organizations that were sending the information every day. Then we have a data network here to send the information. We didn't have a data network, so we had to construct one using the telex network. What we did was to put a computer in each government organization that sent information and translate that to a telex and send that to the presidency where we will gather this information. After that, we will capture the information and do the cyber filter process. And after that, we put all this in a database, and then we had to manage the information to be presented to the president on the management center. So the very good idea of that was that although there were a lot of information, this information was filtered, and so early warnings were issued to detect unusual changes or problems. I will show you later on. So main parts of URUCIB were four: the communication network, which we'll label URURED, the statistical software of CyberFilter, which we had to construct. We had to construct the data network, we had to construct the CyberFilter. Then we have Stafford Beer's ideas and theories, VSM recursions, quantified flowcharts, which we use to determine the information to be sent and also how we presented it. And then the management center or control center, which was the president had no keyboard. He had just one remote control, which is the one I'm showing the photograph here. And it was very, very simple, just a numeric keyboard and some functions keys, and that was all he had. And with that, he will browse the database and have all the information. This was constructed, all this part was given to us by one of the sons of staff also. This is a very important part of the system, the cyber filter. At the right, you have a graph from the system, how much megawatts did the energy central provided to whole Uruguay. And in the right here, a change was detected by the system, a change of slope in this case. We also detected step changes or outliers of data points, etc. So with this, we had within the system, usually we had 8 to 10 alerts like this one every day. Some were important and some were not so important, but nevertheless, they were coming to the president. So the first time that when he opened the computer to see the URUCIB, these changes were what will appear to him the first. The idea is that then he doesn't have to call his collaborators and ask for the data or the information. The idea is that he already has the information, and his questions are about why did this happen. This was a very notable change on how we interacted with the system. Here's large volumes of daily data were automatically processed. Okay, and this is the management center. You have a photo here on the left. This is the day we gave the first day URUCIB went live on October the 3rd of 1988. We are in the morning here. The meeting with the president and his collaborators were in the afternoon. We were testing the system for everything. And we had two big screens there. The screen of the left was the output from the computer. The screen of the left was an output from slides that had the VSM models and the quantified flow charts that I will show now later also. So this is a decision-making hub inspired, as Stafford told us, by the World War II operations rooms in Downing 10th Street, in front of that, which is now the Cabinet War Rooms. It's a museum, and you can see the operation room there. You can visit that now. As I said, the interface was very user-friendly. It was just that control remote, because the president at that time used no computer. He never, until we got the Windows operating system, he never used computers for word processing or anything, because it was too cumbersome to have the control keys on the MS-DOS system, you know. So the visualizations were hybrid, and in summary, this management center was an extension, like Stafford liked to say, an extension of the senses of the fingers of the president, you know. He used to this analogy. So what was he interested in with URUCIB too was that we transferred this technology to countries in Latin America. Many countries were interested about it, and this is the photograph when we signed the first transfer of this to Argentina, to the government of Buenos Aires province. Then afterwards, we also installed URUCIB in the presidency of the Republic in Argentina with Carlos Menem as president, and also in Nicaragua with Violeta Chamorro as president. And the interesting thing is that URUCIB was the first software export of Uruguay. Now Uruguay exports more than 2,000 million US dollars. It's almost 5% of the exports of Uruguay are IT. And URUCIB was the first export of Uruguay. So it was a landmark in that sense too. Here we are in the Council of Ministers room signing the transfer to Argentina. So here you have at the right a quantified flowchart, for example, of ANCAP, which is the oil company in Uruguay. And this will accompany the data in the management center from ANCAP, this company. You see here at the left of the flowchart, the inputs, where the oil came from. 1/3 was from Latin America, 1/3 from the Gulf, which is now would be interrupted now.
Seems to be that we've lost him, no?
No, that
We've
was
lost him.
sudden.
This is problematic. So I guess that what we can do is let's wait for him, because the only way is he reconnecting. And for the time being, oh, he's back.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Victor, you are muted.
I think I lost the connection.
You lost the connection for a minute, but you are back, which is important.
Yes.
Yeah. You want to share your
Okay.
screen again? Okay. Perfect. Okay.
Yes, we are up now. Okay.
Yeah.
So, as I was saying, why is this very important? Because why does it matter today? Because this URUCIB project had features that are now very, very present in today's systems. We have digital government, we have big data, we have artificial intelligence processes, because the cyber filter will do his job in an automatic fashion. The scheme of decision was completely automated. And finally, we got the government dashboards with real-time indicators, which is also very popular today. So this is another interesting thing. 2 years ago, but this is where the plug was put. 3 years ago, the IEEE, you don't know who the IEEE is the Institute of Electric and Electronic Engineers. It's the biggest organization for engineers in this electronics, computer, communications. More than 42 societies are there. And they have a program which is called Milestones of the IEEE. And they recognize these very important achievements in these fields. Would say like it's like an Oscar for the electronic and computer science, and they recognize URUCIB, as I said 3 years ago, and in more than 20 years of this program, there are only 200 milestones in the world, and only 5 in Latin America. 2 of them are in Uruguay. One is this one, the URUCIB, and the other is the Rincón del Bonete dam, which provides more than half of the electricity to the country. So the system was recognized in this fashion, and it's very, very important too. Then, just to conclude, I think I'm in time. This is one of the diagrams that Stafford devised at the beginning, and it shows how we can adapt the VSM. You see, this is the first system 321. This is system 4. This is system 5, and the 3 projects. One project was to get the information, and we did the diagnostics and VSM and quantified flow charts. Then we have the cyber filter project here, and then we have the management center project over here. All the software for these projects were made in Uruguay. I mean, we did the software all by ourselves. And so here it says, no theory of action is valid unless implementable in reality. And that's what I think is a very strong statement, because Stafford Beer needed to be implemented in a way. No? This is the group of the group project. The day we installed the system to the presidency in 1998, and I say some keys to this successful information. First, technology and infrastructure. With old technology and infrastructure, we were able to do some very state-of-the-art innovation at that time. But also, we had to change culture of the organizations, because the organizations are reluctant to inform data, because they think is data is power, and they don't want to give up power, and that was a key issue to break those resistances. And finally, also, you have to say that if you don't have a political support from the highest place is not also feasible to get these kind of systems alive. This is an example of a quantified flowchart. In this case, it is a financial one from the electricity company. So you see, well, I want to explain, you know what a quantified flowchart is. So we did this for all the companies, the telecom and the oil company and many others. So this is a photograph here is from Stafford and Alina with my family. He's my mother-in-law, my wife, and one of my kids. The other one is taking the photo, and this is my sister who worked in the project. And so we are here in the hill of El Cerro de Montevideo, overlooking the bay and the city, the old city of Montevideo here. And I want to emphasize that URUCIB was not just technological achievement, but also a social and cultural, because we transformed the way information flow through the public organization, and this was disrupted at that time. This is another diagram from Stafford. It's dated March 1987, and it shows the complete cybernetic scheme. So you have here the VSM. The number one systems are the ministries, the communities, and the industries. You have then the information that flows to the system and cyber filter here. You have system also for eudaimonic regulators, which Stafford was very fond of. And then here is the URUCIB software and the management center here in the other color. And from here, the information flows to the president, the ministries, parliament, and the people, like Stafford used to acknowledge. And this is the feedback from this information to the originators of the information here, System 1. So to end, I want to emphasize that URUCIB shows that a small country can be decades ahead when it combines knowledge, political vision, and innovation. Thank you very much. And I'm open now to questions.
Thank you very much, Victor. This was really, really good. I would like to start with Elena, because Elena was there. She was very important in the project, and it will nice to see Elena. How would you like to interact with Victor?
Well, I'm very pleased to see how much was accomplished over the years. We weren't getting regular reports that often. There were occasional updates, but I'm really pleased to see how far it's gone. And I have one question that might be a little on a tangent, but I wondered if there was any activity with President Mujica and what he thought of it, because I thought he might have been somebody that Stafford would have really approved of. Not that he disapproved of Julio Sanguinetti, but I think he really would have approved of President Mujica.
Yes, the thing is that URUCIB was, as I briefly told, built on very old technology. Mm-hmm. So the president that came after Sanguinetti was another one. It's called Lacage. Mm-hmm. And he said he was enthusiastic with the system, but really he didn't put the money to support that. So at that time, that was 1990, we will have to put that system in Windows operating system and do a lot of upgrades. And the money was not there for, the UNDP that had supported the project said, look, this is we are here we support it, but we cannot support it forever. So you have to find other sources. So the next government after Sanguinetti didn't support that. President Mujica was very, very interesting president. He was a president for the outside of the country, very, very good. We are very well known because of him. But to the inside, his administration was not, how could I say, it was disorganized. That's the word. I think he belonged to the Frente Amplio, which is a coalition of leftist parties, but Tabaré Vázquez was a more organized president than President Mujica.
Mm-hmm.
So President Vázquez, when he came to power, he approached us to do a second URUCIB. It was in his mind, but then he didn't have also the money to do that, and that's why we never made any more progress on URUCIB. But I must say that with my private company, which is called Quanam, I have made several projects for private and public organizations that got a lot of the spirit of URUCIB. Systems that are still alive now and that have been useful for the country.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I'm really glad to see that, even after, a little bit of limping along for a while, that it's borne fruit.
That's right, yeah.
Um,
We have in my company, I have something like 70 people working on business intelligence, data projects, government, data governance, and now intelligent EIG, so AIG, artificial intelligence generative. So we keep with the progress of technology, but from another point of view. I could also say that I use the VSM model to model an organization which is very successful. It's called the presidency. In the English version, you will have a chapter on that. And the presidency is a program for the basic sciences. And the organization is typically of a VSM organization. And it's very, very successful. So I refer that to you on the book.
Oh, great.
Thank you, Elena. I would like to ask you a question, and everybody's please invited to also ask questions. I have a question, Victor. I remember I was working in the president's office in Colombia in 1988, and Stafford put me in touch with you. You may not remember, but anyway, we were trying to do a URUCIB, cyber project in Colombia, and we even met with Elena and Stafford and Raúl Espejo in Venezuela, and we were trying to design the idea, which unfortunately for political reasons didn't happen in Colombia in those days. But I always had the idea that the URUCIB project was very successful in terms of the technology, that you managed to create the technology, you managed to do the software, you managed to do the indicators and so on. But was it also influential in terms of education, in terms of, how much the original idea of decentralizing and devolving power to people of the different sectors of the industry and creating this idea of self-regulation, how much that happened in Uruguay?
Well, I must say the idea was to install the same software in many other organizations of the states and eventually private. We only managed to make a handful of that. We installed it in the BPS, which is the Social Security Bank. They use it for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. We managed to install it in the Statistics Uruguay. I mean, like, called another way, but it's the organization that gets the whole of the census and statistical data. We managed to do something in the Central Bank of Uruguay too, but after a while, people went out because they got the how do you say the pension, you know, and there were no people that strictly followed the system. What we had is that my company has made consultancy works in many public organizations, and we embedded there some of the principles of URUCIB. But that's all that I can say.
Okay, thank you, Victor. Ben, you have a question.
Thank you, Victor. That was an amazing story, and I really believe that it's one that needs to be told to as broad an audience as possible, because, like you were mentioning, that now we have so much more technology than we did in the time you were implementing this. Nevertheless, we all know it's not always used in a way that fully benefits humanity, and it's often used in a way that harms humanity. So, in my world, in construction management, information is like oxygen. It's so vital and needed, and it's the first thing to get choked out, and the last thing to be thought to be causing problems. There's a lack of information both ways, up and down. So I want everyone to know that you've written a book and it's out there, and hope they go get it, because I do hope this message gets spread. But I would you also mentioned that the social aspect, and I think it's important for people, sometimes critics, or at least may not know as much about VSM. I see it as a purely functional tool. It's like a method, but I know from reading Stafford that it was very much about the people, and so to have seen it implemented in that way is really powerful. So I would like to know a little bit more what it was like working with Stafford along with the process, because last thing I'll say is that I'm noticing a kind of a theme with Stafford Beer when he gets involved. John Walker told me the story about how he met Stafford, and he started with a letter. And so it's almost like he's this wizard figure out there. People send him a letter, and then he responds and comes and moves the world in some way, part of it. And John, his whole experience very similar. So I would like to know more about that experience of working with Stafford, because this probably was very corrective for him also after Chile, I imagine.
Well, let's say working with the Stafford was a very great experience, but sometimes you didn't think like a Stafford, or you think different that he was thinking. The disagreements we have with him, I had with him, were mainly about who has to write the software. I mean, sometimes he used to say to us, "Look, this software has already been written by some people." It was true that at that time there was a company, Metapraxis, that were installing this or his ideas in some governments or private companies, but Stafford didn't get along well with them. He went out from the board, and also the software was very, very costly. I mean, it was a PC software, but it was like a mainframe software on the cost, so we couldn't afford it. And then all the other things that Stafford pointed to us were not the solution we were looking for. And he was very skeptic, you say, that we could write the software, We had a conversation once, I think maybe Alina remembers that, at the Stafford House in Toronto, and people from the Stafford Beer Foundation were there too. I reckon this, I tell this in the book, so it's public. And he says, Stafford says, you're not going to build this on time. And I said, look, maybe we don't do this on 2 or 3 years as we're supposed to, but we are going to build it. And he says, no, Victor. And one of the members of this Stafford Beer Foundation says, but what happens if Victor is right? I mean, if he does the job? And he says, I'll kiss quizás, says the Stafford. So this was the kind of, sometimes we didn't agree on some things, but nevertheless, we managed to do the thing. I was confident, but he had an idea that maybe some people in Latin America would not be able to write software like the first world. And I think that the URUCIB projects is also putting forward a very strong thesis. That is, if it's a project or a software or a system, it has a very high portion of manpower in it, like writing a software program, then you can do it in Latin America or in South, in underdeveloped nations, okay? Because it will be too costly for the developed countries to do that, but it is feasible from the point of view of cost to do it with the rates we had at that time. And that was what happened in here. And the same was what happened with the software of the telex system. The telex system was built and made in Europe by Uruguayans. And we imported all the chips, but the code was written in Uruguay, and it was very successful and very cost competitive. So the same goes to software in Uruguay, in URUCIB, that you can do that in a small country, in an underdeveloped country, because it's very intensive in manpower,
That's an incredible story. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Victor and Ben. Davor.
Hi, hello. Yeah, my name is Davor. I come from Croatia. I'm an ICT professional. I work as a product owner for cybersecurity compliance in the European Commission right now. First, just respect Alina. I'm honored to be in this meeting. I'm a big fan of Stafford Beer, not just a fan. I was trained by Malik Management Centrum for Teams Integrity, had myself led 3, and they were the most powerful experiences of management as a science and of strategic thinking and delivery in a very short space of time. And I'm applying in my own way the VSM now for years in a very simplistic way to try to observe, systems 1 to 5, how they work and everything. So just as an intro. Now, I think we live in the world where, the so-called fast solutions compete with real strategic, solid, robust solutions. And I feel really sorry that the work of Stafford Beer at this moment is not more spread, because I think the humanity really needs it. And I'm playing with a toy project, or call it as you want, to try to bring this kind of thinking potentially with some solutions to the age of AI. So my 2 questions that I have, or commentaries, if you can say from your viewpoint, where's the obviously what was done, and for URUCIB, I'd be Victor, what's there today? Is this still in some shape or form alive, or is this just a living memory? And is there any initiative that you know of that can keep, or any and I'm sorry if that's a basic question, any practitioners that are other than the Malik Management Centrum, which, with all due respect, they, keep it in their own courtyard a little bit, like a kind of, okay, they got the IPR, all respect, everything fine, but I'm more interested in how do you see, and I've seen the video by the gentleman, I forgot the name, who is a Porsche Consulting, who's trying to do the same thing with the age of AI. And I think this is, I can only resonate. I'm quite deep with my team in the AI development and all the agentic stuff, and trying to, let's say, develop systems that work as a real orchestration, meaningful orchestration between humans and agents, where humans don't feel redundant, so to say. And the complexity, the Ashby's law and everything, what am I to say? It's just, I really consider it as a law. And I'm saying, look, like you would respect the gravity. You wouldn't jump on the 10th floor without breaking your legs. No reasonable person. So why? Anyway, but yeah, my interest is, okay, for URUCIB, if you can maybe, Victor, say where is it today, or how did it, whatever happened to it? And secondly, if there's any feedback as to how is this practice live, or where is the what are the living things other than memory of the genius of Stafford Beer and everybody who had a chance to have a privilege to work with him.
Well, obviously URUCIB as such lived for a long time. For example, I can tell you that the system we installed in Nicaragua was still used almost 15 years after we installed it. I mean, in 2005, an IMF consultant that was an Uruguayan and that knew about URUCIB went to the presidency in Nicaragua, saw the screen of the computer and said, "This is URUCIB." and they said, yes. So, and it was a MS-DOS system, So, as such, I think that's the last time. I mean, in Uruguay, the system was used almost until 2000, something like that. Okay, but now, as I say, I use it in my private business, and a lot of people that worked in URUCIB project occupied very high posts and positions in future governments, and so the power of URUCIB went also in the disseminating this culture I was talking about. And the case of PDCIBA, which I refer to, is still using this. The organization is still being using. There is the VSM and the ideas of Stafford Beer, of recursion, of autonomy. These things are really behind the success of this project, that in the pandemic was realized that the people that was formed in the PDCIBA masters and doctorate, PhDs, made a great contribution to the country. One of the biologists that had the master and the PhD in the PDCIBA project was named one of the 10 most influential people in the pandemic by Nature, the magazine, because he invented some kits to test for COVID. So the ideas are embedded in our society. I cannot say which is using what, but many of Stafford Beer's ideas and thinking is embedded in the culture of Uruguay, of course, in the academia and in the professional services of many people.
I would like to mention as well, just complementing what Victor has said, that maybe not the technology, the URUCIB, I mean, we're talking about the cyber filter, maybe not the technology, but after Stafford, there has been a lot of work, academic work. Marcus Schoeninger in St. Gallen's Business School have been training people for the last 30 years. In Los Andes University in Colombia, we trained people that got PhDs and hundreds of master dissertations applying the BSM in all sorts of different sectors in Colombia. In the University of Hull here in England in the last 20 years, we have trained many PhD students, many master students who are now consultants. In the University of Exeter and 5 more British universities, we've been using the BSM massively in the public sector in the last 5 years, and we have lots of people that are publishing, applying, consulting in BSM. So the influence of Stafford may not have been so clear in terms of the use of the cyber filter software, but the influence in terms of the amount of people that are learning, practicing, consulting, and doing applications on BSM is growing exponentially. And you can see it in the numbers of BSM papers and books is just growing exponentially in the last 20 years since Stafford passed away. So just, I mean, apart from, I agree with you, the comment about Malik and the proprietary system, but thanks God, it wasn't the only channel of education and dissemination. And many of us have continued doing, Jose in Valladolid, there has been a lot of applications as well. So everywhere in other countries, there has been a lot of people and continue to be that are using massively Stafford's ideas. John has a question, and then Ken. Yep.
Okay, I have a comment and a question. The first comment is, well, first of all, great presentation, Victor. Really impressed with everything that happened, particularly the development of a working cyber filter, because I actually bought a cyber filter in one of the jobs I was doing, and it was awful. And it was either the tuning of it was almost impossible. Either it was completely unresponsive, so you could put in this trial data and you get no algedonics out of it, and then you did it a tiny little bit. It was a bit like a shower that was either boiling hot or freezing cold. And you turned it a tiny little bit, and algedonics were coming out every 5 minutes. So the fact you've done that is I think really impressive, and I'd really like to hear more about that probably at a later date. I think probably not for this this
I will introduce you my sister. She was responsible for this part of the project. So.
Well, if it's for sale, I'd probably like to buy one. So, so maybe this is a commercial thing. But my question is, after you'd installed all these really interesting and impressive systems that you seem to have got in place, what happened? I mean, in Chile, we had the story of the Gremio strike and how the real-time information allowed the transport system to move stuff around with enormous efficiency. But did you have stories about what happened in Uruguay after you put it in place?
I will tell you 2 or 3 anecdotes. The first one, we installed the project, the URUCIB software in 1988. That same year, there was a drought in Uruguay, a very severe one. And you know, we are a very agricultural and cattle producer. And so how do we know how the country was in terms of drought? Because everybody complained. I mean, the cattle breeder complains, the agriculture guy complains, everybody complains. The very best indicator we had was this milk production indicator, the entrance of milk to the plant to be processed, because with the drought, the cows had very less milk and they produce less. But when the drought ended, the entrance of milk was normal, you know. So we monitor that very, very well, and we knew when there was the drought and then when the drought ended, you know, to determine the help of the state for these people. This is one example. The other one is that I showed you the flow chart of the oil processing in ANCAP, in the oil company. And Uruguay has no oil, so we import 100% of the oil, and this buy is very, very important because it's very, very high. I mean, it's millions of dollars you buy oil from the producer. And at that time, we had a letter of intent with the IMF. I mean, we had to accomplish a lot of things relating to the microeconomics of the country, and the economic team with the president sat with URUCIB to determine at what time do we buy the oil, because if you did that in the 20th or 25th of the month, it will be one thing. At the end of the month, the numbers will be one. But if you wait until the 2nd or the 3rd of the month and do the buy there, the numbers at the end of the month are different. So they inspected how much they had on products, fuel oil, gasoline, etc. They would know how much crude oil they had already in the country, and also how much oil was afloat. I mean, the oil you had already bought, but it's coming on the ships in the sea. You heard that now on the Hormuz because Iran had a lot of oil afloat and with boats in precaution, digamos. So the moment to decide when to buy the oil from Uruguay was decided based on the URUCIB information they had. That's another thing. The other interesting thing I mentioned that the system, the cyber filter, gave us also outliers. One day we have an outlier in the system. I said, what happened? Why this entrance of milk to Conaprole, which is the milk company, came to zero? What happened? This is an outlier. Something broke, or well, what had happened was that the Pope John Paul II arrived to Uruguay, and this was everybody, how do you say, holiday. It was a holiday, but so the system detected things which you could not think about.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ken.
Oh, hi. Yeah, thank you very much, Victor. It was excellent. Unfortunately, I missed about 7 or 8 minutes due to.
Well, you have the
Yeah, I'll watch it. But
yes.
I'm interested. Was there I'm based in the Netherlands, by the way. So I was just curious about what discussions there were in this whole thing with Stafford Beer about your environment, about improving your environment from your perspective of the whole mission.
Well, the environment at that time was not a key issue. It was not in the public mind to think about that. I think that is after we did this. Like for example, the other thing that was not in the mind of the people was national security, police events. Now it's number one theme in Uruguay. So things evolve with the time, and environment at that time was not very in the agenda, the political agenda. Now Uruguay has a minister of environment, and now we have many rules what companies can do and what cannot do, and you need environmental permits to do many things. So the change, the mind has changed now. But at that time, we didn't have things about the environment.
What in that case, because of the Stafford Beer's like great diagrams with the system, the viable system, and then its environment, what was his kind of perspective on the relationship between the viable systems and the environment, its container?
Well, he always said that the system to be completed had to be related to the environment. I mean, that's why in the last diagram I showed, you can see the whole cybernetic scheme involves the environment at the left. So the other thing is that System 4 has to connect to the environment because he's looking forward and has to know what is happening not only inside the country but also outside the country, outside the organizations. So from that point of view, yes, we had already an Office of Planning and Budget here in Uruguay that had specialized divisions for that kind of thinking, So from that point of view, yes, we had to look at many of the issues: the energy, education, health, all things related to the environment, what was surrounding the work of the presidency.
But from Stafford's perspective, was the narrative around the relationship with the environment more of a consuming the environment, or was it in terms of how do we improve our environment contained in the system?
No, we didn't talk about that.
No.
We talk of environment, but just to know what is happening there, because you need this as an input to do plan, for example.
It's more of an input. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
The second thing is the nature of problems as a driver for the system itself. What was the kind of views or discussions around problems as kind of a driver for the system itself?
What kind of problem are you thinking about?
Well, I guess for me, all human-generated systems, all human man-made systems are responses to problems. So the system's like a response to the problems that it encounters, really. So the nature of the system itself is based on the problems it's capable of absorbing. But at some point, it has to be able to generate better problems.
Well, it's obvious that you have a complexity around you, okay? And that you are trying to build this kind of system to reduce this complexity and to manage this complexity. So the idea was basically, how do I get the right indicators from this environment, this variety of things I have, to know what is happening? And know what is happening will help me to do things that can take decisions to do better things, how to make better decisions. Because if not, you are always looking reality with the mirror, the rear mirror. And the idea is to not look back, but to look to the present and try to do things in the future to better to better conduct this action of the state. That's the idea. The idea that Stafford said, I talk about that, about getting more senses to the president, to enhance the senses of the president, know what is happening now so he can take good decisions.
Okay. Right, well, thanks very much. That's really great.
Thank you,
Ken. You're welcome.
José.
Gracias, Ángela. Bueno, Víctor, un minuto en español.
Muy bien.
Una gran alegría poder entrar en contacto contigo. Siempre Uruguay fue un misterio, el proyecto de Uruguay, que estaba pululando porque no había información sobre él. Así como sobre Chile hay un montón de material, libros, etcétera, etcétera, pero Uruguay estaba como perdido por ahí, era un misterio. Entonces, me alegra enormemente poder interactuar con probablemente la persona más importante en relación con el proyecto. I moved to English. I apologize for the colleagues and friends of using the Spanish with Victor. What I would like to ask Victor is a couple of things. One thing is, one question is, the project lasted around 3 years or something like that, active in the government. This is the first question. How long did it last in the government when you installed it and you participated in the project? And how many ministries were involved? Was the whole government only a sector of them? And was a massive project or just a group of people, a small group of people involved in the project? This is one question. The other question more or less was already answered. That is, what happened after this initial kickoff of the project? If it spread through the country. You mentioned that some ideas are embedded in the way people is acting, but this is a kind of diffuse impact. No? If the question is if it had some continuity, specific and visible, or just the impact is this general influence, not specific, with the exception of some consulting companies, like maybe your case. Huh? This is one very broad general question of curiosity to see how was the project and what happened after. And the other question is related to this, is why does not exist a kind of literature, papers, research projects, thesis, books, etc., talking about the Uruguay project. This is also a very strange thing for me, at least. Why is not visible? Is that it had no impact in the academia, and the people was not interesting or not did not know of the existence of the project, or what happened. These are the two questions, Victor. And okay. Thanks very much for sharing this. That for me is fantastic to have this information firsthand. Thank you.
Okay. Well, first for the project. As I said, the government was installed in March 1985. We began conversation. We had begun before the installation of the government conversations about what to do at the president's level, because the president was sure that no computer was at the president. And he was right. There was no computer, not even a single one in the president. So he charged us to think about how we could use computers at his office. So I spent almost a year in building a project that was bigger than the URUCIB. I mean, was also introducing computers with word processing, spreadsheets, and using some economic software for doing correlations and doing a lot of things that were never done at this level. So there were something like 5 sub-projects in this thing. URUCIB was one of them. I'm only telling you the one I like the more, because it involved Stafford's ideas, and it was really 100% innovation project. Okay, so we worked. By the middle of 1986, we began really URUCIB. I think Stafford came about that same year, at the end of the year. He came 4 times to Uruguay, and we delivered the project in 1988, October 1988. Then the project was used for the next 12 years in Uruguay, that's for sure. Then it was discontinued because of the technology obsolescence, okay? But in Nicaragua, as I told you, it went well into the 2005 to 2006. Also in Argentina, I think in Argentina, in the government of Buenos Aires, also was used for 10 or more years, and also in the presidency of Argentina. But so that's one of your question. The other thing is what was the second one?
No, the diffusion, let's say academic diffusion papers,
yes,
the books, etc.
Well, the thing is that I always wanted to write a book about this experience. I never had the time, so I think more than 10 years ago, I say I have to do this, and I began to write the book. In Spanish, the book is called No hay gato. There's no cat. You have to read the book to see why it's called like that, because and then it spoke about the URUCIB. So it is in Spanish. It went out in 2019, I think. And but after that, there were some publications, mainly some Chilean people have been very active. They sponsored a Springer Verlag edition of cybernetics in Latin America. I wrote one of the papers. Raúl Espejo wrote another one. David Maulén de los Reyes and Mariátegui, they wrote the introduction and some papers. So that was in English. Then there is a Spanish version in some publication also in Chile. A paper is called Stafford Beer and URUCIB. So, and I think there are other two or more. So there is some awareness about this. So you can find that in academia or some other places. You will find this publication. It's not very much, but it is. Yes, the Springer is this one, a special issue in 2023. Okay.
I put in the chat, Jose.
Okay.
Yes.
I was going to ask if can be found No hay gato. The question is why that statement? That means that there are a lot of mouses, or what is the problem?
Well, you read the book, you can find it in Amazon and all the libraries, the bookshops.
Okay.
It's online. Okay.
Yes, Angela, put it.
But just to complement, this webinar was organized because Victor's book is now in English. You can get it in Amazon, and it's called URUguay CIBernético. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can get it in Amazon.
Okay.
Right? And it by no cost. So it's an ebook.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, Victor. Thanks very much.
No, you're welcome.
Benjamin. You are muted.
I said, mucho gusto. I'm wondering, it sounds like you're mentioning this project in Uruguay ran through the presidency. And here in the US, we have 50 states and a presidency. I'm curious if you can speak to how did sort of the presidency operation of this interact with more regional systems, if at all? And also, how did the system in Uruguay, if talk to other similar systems in Nicaragua or Argentina? Did they share information or were they centralized?
In the case of Argentina, there was a talk. There were talks about to integrate this or exchange information, because remember in 1981, I think, no, in 1991, the Mercosur was signed, the Mercosur is the common market of Uruguay, Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay. So and when we signed the URUCIB export to Argentina to the presidency, the secretary of the presidency in Argentina made a special statement saying that now that we are in the Mercosur, we're going and have the same system, the URUCIB system. We are going to be able to share information, but it didn't went more than a statement from government. Okay. In case of Nicaragua, they use it for its own information and not sharing. In the case of what you are mentioning about a state, the thing is that the VSM can be put at the national level of the presidency or a state level with the governor and the state government. Or you can go to the municipalities. I mean, you can go to another place too. In Uruguay, we are a very small country. We don't have a 3-layer. We only have the state level and the municipalities, which are something like a states and municipality together. So they just collapsed one kind of system. Stafford did want to extend URUCIB to the other municipalities, okay? But there was many practical problems. The first one was communications. We had later a digital telephone network, but we didn't have that at that time. That's why we used the telex, because that was digital. So that was the main problem. He wanted. We have 19 departments. They are called the municipalities. And he said, "Look, how many conversations could be done between those? And yes, it's n times n minus 1. Okay, so there's a lot. There's a lot of things we could have done. We couldn't do in just one presidency, and that's the reason why. But now I would say that there are steps that are being given in that direction in Uruguay. We have a thing we call the Intendentes Congress. I mean the mayors of the intendencias or the states. They have an organization and they deal with common issues or themes together. So we have approached that organizations, and we are working with them in some issues. For example, now the tax on cars is wide. It's the same one in the whole Uruguay. Before you had different tax regimes in each state, so there is progress on that.
Thank you, Benjamin and Victor. Well, as we don't have any more questions, I would like Elena to conclude this webinar with a question for you. What do you think what can you share with us about what was Stafford's satisfaction or frustration with the URUCIB project? What do you think you witnessed with the Stafford? You are muted. You're muted.
I think Victor mentioned several of them. The fact that practicalities did not allow the expansion into the intendencias, the fact that the software was going to be problematic to get it all together. Just by the way, I think there might be some real opportunities these days for AI to update the software as we go along, so that it doesn't become obsolescent so quickly. I have a lot of stuff I can't use anymore, for instance. And I think he always wanted to see more expansion, but he was also you know, a realist and knew how much could it be happening. I remember one comment from either from or about President Sanguinetti that his major objective was to end his presidency by turning it over to another civilian president. So
That's
the
right, yeah.
possibility of a dictatorship was always lurking in the background. And I think that also was something that led to perhaps a little more caution about a lot of innovations than might otherwise have been the case. I guess, and finally, I think nothing really could have compared with the attempt in Chile, or to have really obliterated the you know, the coming down on the Allende government and all that it represented by the CIA and others. So I think that was also, to a certain extent, in the back of his mind that whatever was done could not bring the CIA down upon the heads of the people in Uruguay. So I think there were a lot of things, but he certainly was glad that it happened and that we went there. And we really did enjoy Montevideo and our excursions to Colonia and Punta del Este. And I've still got a bunch of the arts and crafts and my Menos del Uruguay sweaters that I brought back. My leather coat, which turns out to be very well made. It's still, you know, it doesn't quite look new, but it almost does, and I've worn it a lot.
Thank you very much, Elena. Well, we were here with Vanilla checking correspondence from Stafford with her, and she does have some letters. And yeah, well,
Read that.
You do it. You do it.
This is a postcard from Stafford to Vanilla, which we found earlier today. And I was going to ask the question, but Victor did answer it because it said, safely back from Uruguay after hell and high water. So clearly he was very, very engaged and having a great time there.
I have another with my wife. We once took Stafford and Elena to Punta del Este, and Stafford was wearing his sweatshirt. He used almost daily, but it was winter, you know, and we all had jackets and a lot of coats, and my wife said to Stafford, look, don't you feel cold? I mean, you look how we are dressed, and Stafford says, your winter makes me laugh. But then my wife said to her, look, your summer makes me laugh.
Yeah, well,
Very good. Very good.
I got laughed a lot because the second and third time we were there, we were in the Parque Hotel, which is right across from the river, and there's a beach, and I went swimming, and people thought that was crazy, but it still amazes me how our internal thermostats are so different depending on our latitude, because here in Toronto, people are already wearing shorts and strapless tops and what have you, and it's 10 degrees centigrade.
Yeah.
Same in England. I'm always surprised how British can wear shorts in the middle of the spring when it's 10 degrees.
Yeah, I mean, from Germany to London, it's not that far. But when I did my master's degree with the London University, that was one of the first things that really was mind-boggling to me. As soon as there is a few rays of light, people are half naked in the park. They turn the aircon in the pub to refrigerator, and as a German, you come over and like, wow, what's going on? Like even if it's just an hour of a flight, like it's not that different, but completely different perception of temperature.
Yeah. Well, like us Latinos in Britain are always covered with several layers, whatever is summer or winter, just layers and layers and layers. So anyway, absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much, Victor, and thank you to each one of you for being with us. Thank you, Elena.
Well, thank you, all of you.
Oh, and give my best to Elena and the rest of your family.
Thank you. I will, of course.
Do you want to do the next webinar?
Next webinar is next week. It's a practitioner webinar. So it's basically about applications of the BSM in the automotive industry in Germany. Okay. So looking forward to see you.
Wow.
And I hope to see some of you in Manchester in September in the Centenary Conference.
Okay. Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.